in the wind, blowing since I don't know when. Ever since the child was born, holding on to something warm. Somebody to love, somebody that you can depend on, someplace in the sun. One feeling there's just no denying. Somebody to love, somebody to love, somebody.
Okay, according to the old clock on the wall, it's not even time yet, but we're on TV. I'm Art Fein. This is Art Fein's Poker Party, coming to you from Santa Monica, with a very special guest coming to you live. Second time in, Dwight Twilley. Dwight?
How you doing, Art?
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks.
It's good to see you. If you have a picture of these two, let's pull the CD off there so they can look at the two things clearly. The two things that Dwight is known for is, of course, the Dwight Twilley Band, with the first album, Sincerely, showing in front of us. You know, that doesn't look like you. I mean,
it doesn't, does it?
It is you, but it doesn't look
Same
like
shades.
you. Yeah. And Sincerely, big album, and of course the hit song I'm on Fire off of that, and many subsequent records. Next to that we got what you're doing now in addition to music, which is your new book, Questions from Dad.
Right.
Want to tell me a little about it?
Well, I've always been separated from my daughter by quite a distance, but I was convinced that there had to be something better than just letters or phone calls to spark some kind of connection between us. So,
Where's your daughter been? She's been living in one place all these years. How old is the kid?
she's just turned 14. But after a lot of experiments, I came up with this method that not only drastically improved the amount and quality of communication between us, but really brought us together.
And that was a form?
It's a fun and personal questionnaire that I call the Dad's Test, which I think is capable of creating an almost magical interactive dialogue between children and adults. And you can read about it in
oh, that's right.
this week's issue of
we don't,
People magazine.
People, the one that's just on the stand, there's a nice review of Dwight's book, Questions from Dad.
Right.
This takes you into the authorship realm,
Right.
Which is something new. Now, you've been making music for 20 years or so. The latest thing to come out in the music world is the great Lost Dwight Twilley album that came out on
DCC.
DCC, sorry, which came out last year, which a lot of rare tracks and a lot of good ones.
25 of them. I think they put some on the edges since there's so many.
So how did you get into the book writing racket? I mean, you've had this idea, a lot of people have good ideas. How did you ever make the contact with this Tuttle publisher?
Well, it all just kind of happened spontaneously. I, you know, just out of frustration of being one of the 20 million dads who's separated from his child, I tried a lot of experiments, and I came up with this little method of these questionnaires. I was having a great time with it, you know, and a friend of mine was over at the house one night, and you know, it was kind of one of those rainy day conversation things where there's nothing left to talk about. And I said, "Say, you ought to take a look at these little things I do with my daughter." And he was so taken by them, and he said to me, "Dwight, do you realize how many people that this could help? This really should be a book." And I thought, well, I don't know, you know, and I thought about it, and then one night I was driving home from the recording studio, you know, probably 4 in the morning, and there's one of those late night talk show psychiatrists, and some caller was calling in, and with some real sad story about how he was separated from his child and couldn't really communicate, and this particular host of the show, you know, ended up just sort of saying, well, you know, I hate to tell you this, but there's really nothing besides letters and phone calls that you can do. And I know that wasn't really the answer that she wanted to give, and wasn't the answer that he wanted to hear. And that's when I knew that this was really something that I had to get involved with. And the surprising thing was, I thought, well, okay, we'll put together a proposal, and maybe, you know, in a year or something, we'll get a agent interested. Well, the agent was there like that. And then I thought, well, now we've got an agent, who knows, in a year or something, maybe somebody will actually be interested in publishing this. But the response was so immediate. The first publisher that saw the manuscript flew in from Boston and immediately signed it. And
wow.
Here is my first book, Questions from Dad.
It's pretty true.
And it's getting quite a reaction, and the great thing about it is it really seems to be helping people, not just dads either, like grandparents, aunts, uncles, people in the military, people in prison. And the surprising thing is, too, is how many people that live with their kids are coming to me and saying, this is great. You know, I'm finding out things about my son or my daughter that I never knew before.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of a different way to communicate. It's not like asking a direct question. Are any of your friends at school using drugs? You know, that's a little hard and intimidating to take. But when you give this sort of magical little safe questionnaire that they can slip away into their bedroom with and have this secret personal dialogue with dad or with mom, it creates this new kind of communication.
Cool. Do we have the number up for phone calls? I don't know if we've gone out and directly asked for, solicited for calls, but this is a call-in show, and you could tell me the number, then I would know it. It was 315. Is it 44? Anybody got it?
315.
Just call any number.
4428.
It is 4428. 315-4428. That's in the 310 area code for Dwight Twilley. Let me talk about music for a little bit, too. You've been pumping out records.
Music's music.
Pumping out records for quite a few years. And, of course, your earliest, or rather the primary Twilley output was in partnership with Phil Seymour.
Yeah.
And maybe people watching don't know that Phil passed away last year.
Yeah, after a very long and brave battle with cancer.
And he had a hits, too, in the late 70s.
Precious to Me. Yeah. A great talent, and played a big role in a lot of people's careers that a lot of people don't know. You know, that was Phil singing the background on Breakdown, on Tom Petty's Breakdown, and American Girl, and a number of other groups that Phil was in the background, in the shadows, but was a big influence, a great talent, and of course a big loss for me.
Yeah.
Because we had tried and discussed over the last few years on a number of occasions. We really wanted to get together and do something again, but his health just didn't permit it.
And it was throat cancer for him? Or?
No, it was lymphoma.
Oh, so it wasn't like a smoking kind of
No,
thing?
no.
Okay. Well, we got both sides to talk about, but since you're always talking about music, we'll go back to the relationship with your daughter and that spawned the book. How long as a kid, what's her name? Dion, right?
Dion.
She's always lived far away? I mean, where? I mean, you live in L.A.
Yeah, well, she used to live in my hometown of Tulsa. Now she lives in Arkansas. And so for a lot of people like me, when you're separated from your child, you have three options. You've got letters, phone calls, and occasional visits. So I don't know if you've ever received a letter from a 7-year-old. You know, I can tell you that they're a lot of fun, and you may learn everything you've always wanted to know about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But as far as discovering what's really happening in your child's life, they're really not of much value. And the same, you know, is pretty much true with phone calls. You're competing with barking dogs, screaming babies, MTV, the Revered twins from down the block who just learned how to belch. And so, you know, then when that occasional visit comes along, with this kind of ongoing communication, then there's not that sort of awkward silence. You know, and it's kind of a topical issue with Father's Day right around the corner.
So were you keeping good correspondence? Were you seeing her a couple times a year?
A couple times a year, yeah. You mean before?
Before the Brighten the Book? And
Yeah.
And I saw you at the book convention down at the convention center just recently. You're going to be working those kind of venues?
I'm actively promoting this book. You know, it's obvious that music was my first love and still is, but it's just so rare an opportunity for anybody in their life. So rarely it comes along that there's actually something you can do that could really help a lot of people. So it's been worth it to me to sort of set the music aside for the last few years, and right now to continue to try to get this idea out here, one solution, you know, for a lot of people.
Well, speaking of the music that's been lost, I remember talking to you maybe 3 years ago on the show, and you were putting together an album. Is that one still sitting around?
Yeah, I still have a full album in the can, yeah.
Okay, let's take a call on line 1 and hope the speakerphone is on. I'm not so sure about that, but we'll try it. Anybody there, speaker?
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Well, you're on.
Hi, this is Pete. I live in the West LA area. And by the way, I've always been a fan of Dwight's music.
Thanks,
you know,
Pete.
I love his music, but this is really wild to find out that he's like made the switch to like being a book author guy. Well, I've got a 10-year-old son, Dwight. Can you hear me, Dwight?
Yes.
Hi, Dwight. I got
Hi.
a 10-year-old son, and I guess your book is about, you know, communicating with your kid across the miles and sending these little quizzes. I really want to find out more about it. I'm going to run out and get the book. But I live with my son, and he's 10 years old, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of space between them. It's getting harder and harder to talk to him all the time, and he just, you know, is kind of putting up a wall between the two of us. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe your test, your quiz idea might be a good idea to use, but do you think it would work for somebody, you know, under the same roof?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a surprise to me because the book was written with an emphasis on separated parents, but as I was telling Art earlier, I've been really surprised by how many people, first place, a lot of people came to me and seen my book and looked at the example tests I have in it, and they go, boy, you know things about your kid that I don't even know, people that live with their kids.
Wow, that's great.
And you got to you remember that kids love to receive things in the mail. One of my dad's tests delivered in the mail from dad's work address is an exciting moment. A dad's test can be slipped under the door for a teenager who's locked herself in the bathroom, and also that slipped under the pillow. A dad's test is pretty big time tooth fairy competition.
Far out. That sounds
So I'd
great.
give it a try.
I'm going to try it. You know something? With Father's Day coming up, I might even like send a test to my dad, you know, rather than sending it to my son. Maybe I'll send one to my son and one to my dad.
That's a great idea.
Come look at the book, Dwight.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Veronica, I was wondering in the control room whether you have the, I don't know if we have a music video queued up from, what do you think? Now, the thing that we think we have.
It was a little crazed getting in here today,
Yeah, right.
as we know.
We
We
don't
don't know what we got.
No, but what
Why don't we
would
be
it be,
surprised?
if it was there, what would it be?
I think Why Wouldn't It Break My Heart, which was my version of the song that was in Wayne's World.
Uh-huh.
The ballad that Tia Carrera sang in the rehearsal with Rob Lowe. A lot of people remember that.
I see. Okay, Adam, do we have
Why
that?
You
Just
Wanna Break
nod
My
yes or no, whether you have it. Otherwise, we might go on and continue a conversation. No, I don't have it. Okay. Well, now we know. We know what it would have been had it been there.
Maybe we got a Chubby Checkers video or something. We could replace
like I say,
it.
I'm going to ping pong this back and forth from music and the book.
Okay.
Now, how many albums were there? Well, the Shelter was kind of a problem for you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, being on Shelter Records in the 70s.
Right.
At the same time, they dissolved.
Right.
It didn't help matters.
No, it didn't. It was when the I'm on Fire was a hit, and actually their plan was to release actually 2 more singles before they released Sincerely, and it was the week that You Were So Warm entered the charts that the record company dissolved. I remember calling to promotion and saying, "What's going on?" And there's no longer a promotion here at the company.
But it was it was enveloped in a bigger company, wasn't it? Or at that time, was it independent, or was it with MCA?
It was with MCA. And so they were out of the picture there for about a year. So unfortunately, it was like a year after I'm on Fire that the Sincerely album was actually released.
That long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I've had a string of those kind of interesting occurrences throughout my career.
I want to talk to you about one of my favorite influences on you.
It could drive you to becoming an author, I'll tell you.
All right, let's take a call. Don't forget, we're on live right now, 315-4428. That's in the 310 area code, talking to Dwight Twilley. Hello there. Anybody on the air? Anybody on the line, rather?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is the poker party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to talk with Dwight Twilley.
You've got it.
My favorite song of yours is I'm on Fire. And I was wondering, I'm sure that a few other of your hits might have passed my mind, and I'd like to look them up because I'm a big fan of yours. So could you kind of run a few by me?
Well, a lot of people remember Girls from 1984.
Yeah, I remember the video. That was quite risque, if I recall.
Well, there were 2 versions of that. There was a regular version for MTV, and then there was a R-rated version that you probably would have seen on the Playboy channel.
Sure, sure. Didn't you have a kind of a big hit probably like in the late 70s before Girls? What was your last hit before Girls?
Well, a lot of people remember Somebody to Love.
Somebody to Love.
Right.
Got to be the 3rd hit by that name because there's Jefferson Airplane and Queen.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
I've just been a big fan of yours, and I think the resurgence of many of our 1970s music stars is just par excellence. And I was wondering, do you kind of think it's kind of a sign of the times, making a commentary on some of the talent of today?
I hope so. You know, I'd like to hear a little more melodies, you know, and harmonies and voices than you hear today. And just
Dwight, what's your whole catch on this Kurt Cobain thing?
my catch on it?
Yeah, what's your slant?
Well, I just think it's really unfortunate, and I really don't know that much about the situation personally, but I guess this person was obviously having a hard time and was in a little bit of trouble, and it's just unfortunate that people that are around him weren't able to get him some help.
Do you think his music will hold up 10 years from now?
I really couldn't answer that question.
Caller,
I'm not that familiar.
We got a
with
bunch
it.
of callers stacked up, so
Thanks a lot, Art. Keep
thanks.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jeannie, and I'm a big fan of Dwight. And my boyfriend separated from his 8-year-old son. I'd like to know where I could get the book.
Well,
Bookstores, I guess.
Yeah,
because
it's available in
we don't
bookstores.
talk about, it's the non-commercial medium that we're on right now,
Yeah.
so.
Just
we
go
can't
to your
really
local
see-
bookstore.
Local bookstore, and I'm a big fan of your music. Thanks so much.
Speaking of, going back to the music that I was referring to ahead of time, don't forget we're on live 315-4428. If it's June 11th while you're watching this. You have some real strange influence right at the beginning of your career in that you stumbled into Sun Records, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I live for, Sun Records, and you actually kind of backed in there without knowing anything about it, right? Or
Well,
virtually.
Yeah, when Phil and I were originally starting to kick around, you know, the idea of making records, we couldn't afford to drive all the way out to Los Angeles or New York.
From
Tulsa,
Tulsa,
Oklahoma.
yeah.
So we got in my '58 Chevy station wagon and decided to go to Memphis, and we were just driving around, and the first recording company that we saw was this place called Sun Records.
Probably the only recording company you would have seen in Memphis,
Yeah.
unless Stax was still around.
Meant absolutely nothing to us. You know, we had no idea. You know, first place, we didn't pay that much attention to Elvis anyway. We just thought he was a guy that was in movies.
Yeah.
You know, and we walked in and met some guy named Phillips, and played him, I guess, some of our real primitive demos. But he was very taken by it, and he connected us with a man named Ray Harris, who was actually an early Sun
You bet.
recording
Come on,
artist.
Little Mama.
That's right.
A wild man, a
Yeah.
really wild man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he took us down, of all places, to Tupelo, Mississippi. And so we were given a full education about what the whole situation was about. And it changed us completely. He pointed out that you all sing like pussies. And so it had a big impact on us. So then we began to realize that Elvis actually, those guitar parts and the sound of the drum of the Beatles records, there's a couple of those that were around a little bit earlier. So it was a big influence.
Okay, let's take some more calls. Line 1. Caller, you're on with Dwight Twilley and Poker Party.
Hi, Art. A big fan of your show. Love when you have guests on. I particularly liked your Freddie Cannon, Kim Foley, Shell Tell Me shows of the past. Excellent.
Cool, I'll do more.
I have a question to you about Jerry Lee Lewis.
Okay.
Is he not a tax exile, and how is he able to come back to the U.S.? I mean, I'm really looking forward to see him. I didn't think it was going to happen ever again.
That's what, well, I wish maybe another caller will know. Maybe one of his lawyers is out there, because I've heard that too. I know he's been living in Ireland for a year or two based on his most recent tax invasion. I mean, I guess he hasn't been paying his taxes, so I don't know whether it's
That'll do it.
I don't know whether it's an injustice or not. But yeah, I'm curious about that too, because I have seen some reference to him coming to America. So maybe he won't have stayed away as long as Fats Domino stayed away from California, which was like 1956 to 76 or something like that. But I don't know the answer to that, but I too am looking forward to seeing
Good
it.
question.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. A great show, and I loved your book.
Thanks
Bye,
very
Art.
much.